Hi guys, Josh here, your Amazon optimization guru, and welcome to my channel where we talk about all things related to optimizing and increasing your sales on Amazon. So if you're looking for a more personalized one-on-one approach, I do offer consulting services, and you can get in touch by clicking on the link in the description below. Today I thought we'd talk about something that is definitely a big part of your Amazon optimization strategy, or if it's not currently, it should be a part of it down the line. You'll get to a point where you're making some profit and you have some additional dollars, and in that case I would recommend that you consider putting these behind some advertising efforts. Usually for a successful brand on Amazon, it's recommended that you put about 15 to 20% of your overall monthly revenue behind ads to support the effort and to help drive and grow your ranking within the platform. So today I'm going to give you a more holistic overview of ads, and then you can see my other videos on the channel where they go more specifically into each ad type. But for today, I figured we'd just kind of go over what each of the types look like and where you can find them on the site, and just generally how they function and what my recommendations are in terms of how to leverage each type. So if you go to your seller account, you can see under here, you go to advertising and then campaign manager. It will pull up this screen where it shows you to select your campaign type. So right now you'll probably have 3 types to choose from. These are available to, if I'm not mistaken, all sellers. So you can look and see kind of which each one looks like and how that can support your efforts. And the first one we have here is the sponsored products. So these in particular are probably going to be your bread and butter and the main ads that you're going to want to at least start with and run. They will be the main revenue drivers as well. They perform the best. They do often have the most competition in terms of other brands leveraging it. That's the reason, obviously, why they're so effective, is that everyone wants to use them. So if you go to the site, you can see here I searched, just an example, vitamin D3. And you'll see if you scroll down, there's a little sponsored icon. So a lot of these sponsored products will appear within the search results for any specific search term. And this is where you want to kind of position your product as well. So if you have a vitamin D supplement, for example, you're going to want to do some research. And I get into researching in helium-10 as well as other external sources in my other videos. So check that out for more information. But you're going to want to put yourself behind specific search query terms. And then what this is going to help you do is to kind of lift your ranking for each of these terms. So ultimately and eventually, you get to page 1 organically for specific ones. So in this case, vitamin D3 is probably a fairly competitive term. I wouldn't recommend starting out with that, but you can see here that even if you spacebar the auto search results, they'll give you additional options. And these are the most popular. So you can look to kind of position yourself if your product fits under some more long tail search terms. And then of course, if you go off of this long tail, you can extrapolate that further to kind of see where else you can position yourself relative to these sponsored ads. They will also show up in other areas on the site. Sometimes they show up in the product listings. So you can see this product listing here. If I scroll down, I'm going to see sponsored just here. And these again are more sponsored ads. So if you have a strategy where you feel like you want to place your sponsored ad not under a keyword but under a category, or even a competitor product, you can pull the product ASIN, which is found here. And then what you can do is you can target that specific product with a sponsored ad, for example. In my opinion, I would recommend that when starting out, you use the auto targeting type as one campaign and let that spend for several months. And this should gather enough data on the keywords that you're running to help you identify which ones are converting well and which ones are not. Ideally, again, you want to be at least at a 1x ROAS, which means for every dollar you spend, you get $1 back. I wouldn't recommend dipping further below that unless you're purely looking for customer acquisition. But one way that brands do it is they do a mix of the search terms that are normal ones, and then they'll do their own branded search terms. So if you're a brand that's getting some recognition even outside of Amazon, consider searching and finding specific terms related to your brand. So if your brand is called Pure Naturals, for example, you could do Pure Naturals Vitamin D3 and position yourself there. I would recommend doing that, especially if you have a lot of competitors that are pitting themselves against your specific ads. So like, for example, in this case, Nature Made, you can see that there's another brand that's targeting a different ad type. And then you have other brands here that are sponsored listings. You can see here sponsored, that are also targeting against this branded name. So you may find that you have competitors that are trying to steal customers away from you. And what you want to do is you want to position yourselves with branded search terms as a mix in a separate campaign to go along with your branded terms. So that's how I'd recommend you start out with the sponsored products. I would keep the bids low and obviously keep an eye on your budget and keep an eye on your overall spend versus your revenue. Again, I don't like to dip anywhere below 1x unless we're going for some sort of customer acquisition, but it depends on what your objective is overall. So that's for sponsored products. That's where I would start with that. For sponsored brands, you can see that this unit looks a little bit different. So I'm going to actually go ahead and pull up an example here in the search result protein. So you can see kind of what this looks like. And so I put this up, and you can see here that there's a similar sponsored kind of brands position on the top of the page. The one I'm looking for is a little more specific. You can see it down at the bottom. So this is a sponsored brands placement. The ones above it are display. This one allows you to put a video in. So if you do have video assets, and something like this is a great example. If you watch this play, you'll see how they position it with the benefits. And then, of course, the testimonials. Great visuals, great lifestyle feel and look to it, really fits in with the brand. You can have a specific product showcased, so you can see the product details on the right side, the title, the pricing, etc. So a really nice ad. Doesn't seem to have the greatest product rating with a 3.9, but it is a good example of a sponsored brands placement. What I'd recommend for these solely is for brand defense. So if you're a brand that gets a lot of competitors that are positioning themselves towards your branded search terms, this is another great campaign type to just go ahead and take that top spot. And usually what happens is these sponsored brands will take the top spot of the page here, depending on how you set them up and what your bid amount is. So you're really going to show up first, top of mind, and ensure that you have the defense necessary to prevent other brands from stealing your spot or stealing a sale from you. So I would definitely recommend that type for that specific purpose. The third ad type, which I like a lot, and I'll tell you the reason in a minute here is sponsored display. Now, sponsored display is more of an audience targeted campaign type. So you have the first two that are really just category targeted and search term targeted, as well as competitor ASIN targeted. And then you have sponsored display, which will allow you to target and retarget a lot of your audience. So you can see in some cases, I'll give you an example where these show up usually in the actual product pages themselves. So you can see there's one to the right side here, this folic acid, and usually they put one further down the page. So you can see another one here as a good example. Now, these are, I think, generally searching or showing up towards other competitor products. But what I'd recommend for this type of ad, and it's pretty easy to set up, is if you have a large enough pool with your brand and with your product pages, it's going to allow you to retarget previous product page viewers, and then you'll be able to retarget previous purchases. And I definitely recommend leveraging these two audiences because you're going to see a lot of nice results from targeting audiences that are already warm or already hot versus audiences that have never purchased your product. They're not familiar with the brand. They're not familiar with the product itself. They haven't visited the product page, and therefore, obviously, they're less likely to purchase. So leveraging sponsored display for retargeting in this manner is a great way to go ahead and capture customers that are more likely to purchase. So with that, I'm going to leave it there. You can check out my other videos specifically for each campaign type. And if you liked this video and you found it informative, please make sure to hit that like button, as well as subscribe to my channel for more great content. And until then, take care.